Okay. All right. Well, first off, man, welcome everyone. Good morning. It may be evening to some. I know we're all scattered across the country, but welcome everyone to navigating life after intercollegiate athletics as an international student athlete. I'm excited about this one. Um, it is my honor and duty. I got a chance to look up these guys' profiles late last night preparing for this, but it's my honor to introduce the presenters. We're in for a real treat. We have three presenters today. The first is Tatiana Nakinta. If she's not here, we don't have to. Oh, I see you right there. Good to see you, Tatiana. I know you're just coming from another one. Following Tatiana, we have Chris Core from Clemson University, and Tatiana is from a GA at Cleveland State. Chris is at Clemson University, and then we have Merrick, who's a teaching assistant at Troy University. So without further ado, Tatiana, if you want to take it away.
I got you, Tatiana. Thank you, Oscar. I appreciate it. And sorry to jump in there, but so really just some context for the people that have hopped on. I see we have a good number of participants. We Tatiana and Mara came to me, and we've met through the years at conferences, different research, whatever they may be doing. And they said, "Hey, there's a lot of literature out there. There's a lot of research on international athletes transitioning into college and their experience while they're competing as a collegiate athlete, but nobody really talks about them after, right? And so we have literature on domestic athletes, what jobs they go into, kind of their experience with a post-athletic transition. What about internationals, right? As a unique subset of the population of NCAA athletes specifically. And so, in terms of volume, 10% of college athletes annually are internationally based across all three NCAA divisions. So, you're talking anywhere from 30 to 40,000 individuals that, maybe 10, 12,000 are graduating each year. What kind of happens to them then? Right. And so that's something that I know Tatiana and Marek are interested in. They're doing fantastic research. If they're not already the experts in international athlete experience literature, they will be very soon with the stuff that's coming out. And so, really, just to start, this is kind of more of a dialogue, a conversation between the three of us. We do this often. Mark was texting me actually a minute ago, like this seems like just a normal everyday Thursday morning conversation. So if we could hop in just for context for people listening, and Tatiana, why don't you start with kind of your experience, where you're from, walk us through briefly. I know you've had a lot of experiences, both of you, with college sports, but walk us through kind of briefly your collegiate athletics experience and then what you're doing now.
So my name is Tatiana Nikitina, and I came into United States 11 years ago to the community college in Iowa. I attend Southeastern Community College on athletic scholarship, where I learn English and also play my first 2 years. After that, I was able to transfer to a 4-year college and choose my degree in sports management. That's something was near to my heart. And I played 2 years at 4-year college, graduated from Aldous and Brothers University, and currently I'm in Cleveland State. I finished my master's degree, and currently I am a PhD student in educational policy, focusing on intercollegiate athletics and higher education.
Awesome. Marek, what about you?
My name is Marek Taškar. I'm from Slovakia. I came to the United States in 2018 to University of Texas at El Paso. I was javelin thrower, but unfortunately, after my freshman year, the vision of my athletic career between me and my coach went apart, which sometimes happens. I decided to transfer to University of Nebraska, but the transfer never happened. I never attended University of Nebraska, and I gave up on the dream of ever coming back to the United States. I applied to a bunch of schools and got accepted around the Europe. But then suddenly one coach from Troy University emailed me, contacted me, and within 14 days we were able to get me on a plane. And I spent the next 3 years in Troy University studying hospitality, tourism, and sport management as my undergrad. And right now I'm pursuing my master's degree. I'm second semester master's student of sport management at Troy University.
Great. Thank you both. That's great. And again, for the couple people that just hopped on, we're talking about the transition of international athletes out of college sports. And so not just a post-athletic transition, but professional, right? Where do you end up professionally? And I'm not talking about professional athletics. So for both of you, thank you for sharing your story uh, a little bit. For both of you, you transitioned out of sport, but you stayed in the academic setting at really for you, Mark, the institution you were competing at. Kind of talk about the transition to a graduate degree, why you pursued that, even though you were done competing athletically, you finished your degree. What was it about staying at Troy, staying in academics? Why did you pursue that maybe than rather your undergraduate degree you said was in sport management in terms of going into a more professional field outside of academia or going back to Europe and Slovakia and looking for employment there?
So, first of all, my last year of undergraduate degree, I was injured and I wasn't healthy enough to compete. And then I had to think what I would like to do. I always wanted to be a coach, and I was hoping that I'm going to become a coach for NCAA. But getting to know more what is NCAA coaching about, I realized that it's, for the most part, to me at least, it's pure business. And I was lacking over there the sense of relationship, the sense of connection, and that every year people are coming in and out, and there is no really long-term connection with your athletes. And then I was fortunate enough that at Troy University I had tremendous mentors like yourself, and simply we just were having discussions. What are my morals? What are my goals? What I would like to do? What I stand by? And everything that I was standing by, and I am till today, was aligning with the path of becoming an educator, professor, teacher. And then you, Chris, and also Dr. Sellers from Tree University explained to me what steps I need to take in order to become one of you. And at that moment, I told myself, yes, let's do it. I like it. Show me, teach me. I'm willing to learn.
Yeah, so talking about the relationship that you had with people on the ground there, right? And them maybe pushing you's the right word, maybe it's the wrong word, but at least providing like a pathway of here's something that you could pursue and how you can pursue it. And so the relationship component of that, Tatiana, if you could talk about your experience and the role that maybe mentors, advisors played in pushing you and enabling you to go to graduate school and really encouraging that. And now you've taken it even a step further, getting ready to complete your terminal degree, your doctorate degree.
So for me, I graduated with my undergrad in sport management 2018. I always was fascinated with American athletic system. I think it's amazing what is happening here. After my undergrad degree, I want to work with professional teams. I want to be in that world. I want to continue my journey with the sport. But one of the things that I found that I want to get a better degree. I want to get a higher degree to be more valuable, to actually bring more to the table. I decided to attend the Cleveland State University and sport management program. I love Cleveland because it has numerous professional teams, and I was looking for opportunity to join the teams. But in my first semester, I took a survey class. And my professor, who is also was my advisor, allowed me to explore other parts of sport. I looked in intercollegiate sport, and I was looking at how students choosing college that they are attending. And for me, this was one of the big turns. He not only My professor not only helped me to learn something new, to open the new areas that I did not thought about that. Well, I saw that intercollegiate athletic is fascinating. I did not realize that it's something that I could be involved in, even that I went through the system. So it's brought me to my first conference. It's allowed me to explore, learn something new, and bring new knowledge. From that point moving forward, I was deciding to complete a master's thesis over the comprehensive exam. And after graduation, I spent the whole year working in Shaker Heights. It was Department of Recreation. I worked there for 8 months, but I realized that I want to continue education. I want to bring in new knowledge. I want to do more research. So I got my put my application to Cleveland State, and I got accepted. And now moving forward, I'm looking forward to more work with intercollegiate athletics, to look in our higher education system and how this work with intercollegiate athletics. But without my professor who allowed me to explore different areas, who helped me navigate, who I trust, I would not be here today.
Yeah. So both of you, yeah, Mark, go hop in.
Sorry, I was just about to add to that as I mentioned before, that I still have till today at university tremendous mentors. They put me in a position to succeed. They showed me, hey, if you want to do it, we're gonna put you in a positions that you can be successful, which meant that they found what I was good at, and they were looking for things that, hey, you are capable of doing this. You don't know, you may not know about it just now, but you are able and capable of doing this, so let's go this direction. And immediately, if you get that sort of encouragement from multiple people at once, all of a sudden, for an international student athlete, just international kid that doesn't know much about this whole system in the United States, all of a sudden that inner confidence and the trust in yourself is even more encouraged.
So for both of you, you're talking about that mentor. For both of you, it's from an academic standpoint. It's a professor, it's an advisor, it's a mentor. What about I mean, you can't be a college athlete and not have a coach that has some sort of superior role in your life, right? They're a coach. That's the term itself. It's right. It's above the athlete in terms of coordinating what the athletes do, being a mentorship figure in their life, whatever it may be. What role did your coach play in kind of setting you up beyond, or did they play in terms of setting you up, getting to think about what's life going to look like after you finish track and field or basketball?
I would say for coach for me was it was not within intercollegiate system. The first coach who was actually talking to us to actually show that it's more things than basketball was in my um, children club. We call it children club because we have a club systems at home.
Okay.
And while he was pushing us to practice more, to perfect what we're doing, he also was very strict about how we're going to school. What are you doing with your time? What are you learning? What are you thinking about? It was very interesting to see that some things that I never really understand because he always was asking the questions besides basketball. And I'm like, why are we talking about that? We're about to go to competition, but he wants to know what else are we interested in, which none of us, looking back, I see that none of us could articulate what else are we interested in. Our world was that basketball field.
So when you transition out of gymnasium sport academy back in Russia and you come to the US, does your college coach at any of you competed at multiple schools, really talk in that same way? Did they speak in that same way, encourage you to, hey, professional development outside of basketball, what are you focused on? What are you going to do when you graduate? Did they focus on that at all?
I had an interesting experience because most of my coaches was focusing on that athletic experience and what we need to do next. It was kind of very interesting in some sense that I did not pay attention too much because I was so involved within my athletic side.
Sure. What about you, Mark?
For me, I was always a curious kid, and I always wanted to know why and how. I always wanted to understood. And fortunately, once again, I was very lucky to have very good coaches back home, and they were willing to explain it to me. So every time I was practicing, I was training something. First thing that I asked was, why am I doing this? Help me understand. And as a curious kid, and having the ability to ask those questions, I was gaining more and more knowledge. So all of a sudden, my coaches realized that, hey, okay, you are athlete, you are somewhat okay athlete, but you want to know more about it. And so slowly but surely, I progressed to obtaining my coaching license back home. And whenever I came to the United States, I had a Finnish coach, and Finnish coaches and javelin throw that goes together. So I was asking a bunch of questions once again. But then at my first university, which was El Paso, I met with pushback. All of a sudden, coaches, even gym coach or lifting coach, didn't want to answer my questions, weren't willing to talk to me, weren't willing to educate me. And so that's why our path went different directions. At Troy University, I was coached by first time ever by female, which was a big risk because I didn't know how it's gonna feel like, what it's gonna do to me. But fortunately, I was coached by Michelle Clayton, and she immediately saw that I want to understand, and she knew that I would like to become a coach. So she started explaining to me more and more. But at the end of the day, she had to tell me this is a business. If I like it or I don't, this is just a business. And even if I like the professional side and education part about coaching, about lifting, about javelin throw, about track and field, about logistics, that was all nice. I was very interested. But the part of taking athletes at the end of the day as just numbers, as a product, as somebody that you need to push to have results from, as somebody that you are not really interested in their personal life, how they are doing, what they are thinking about, that you are part of their life for maybe 4 years, right now with COVID 5 years, but for the most part only 4 years. I realized that this is not for me.
Sure.
That so basically, I was shown that this is not the way how I want to live my life. It was very good experience. I'm very thankful for it, because not having her right above me or with me in the path of 3 years, or in a span of 3 years, I would probably never find out, and most likely I would choose the wrong way to go.
Yeah, and I think too, and Tatiana alluded to this, to have kind of more of a conversation than me asking just questions of both of you. What is a coach compensated to do? First and foremost, they're compensated to win games. And I'm not going to be so cynical to say that no coach cares about any of their athletes. I think that that is not true at all. Mark, your story of Michelle taking an interest in you, and Coach Clayton taking, hey, you want to be a coach? Let me help you develop and teach you what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and answering your questions. That's someone taking a professional interest in you and a personal interest in you. But what are you primarily there to do as a coach? You're there to win, and you don't keep your job unless you win, right? And so there's a lot of institutionalized pressure to prioritize winning at all costs. What I would ask from both of you, elaborated on the relationship, and maybe as an academic, your relationship with students is one of the primary reasons that you are a professor, right? And having a mentorship relationship, being in the classroom, having office hours where students can communicate with you. Maybe it's more conducive to establishing trust between an international athlete and a professor, and helping them along the way. One of the institutional resources that I think just about any school in the country has is an international student office, international student advising. Maybe talk a little bit about their role in your experience, specifically with that, preparing you to move on out of your undergraduate degree, and the role that they occupied in that.
So I've been in a couple different schools, which if I'm looking at my community college, I was on satellite campus, so my international office was not really on my campus, and I did not have a chance to experience as much and have as much communication with the office. The one fantastic thing that I had a one advisor who spoke Russian. So
Mm,
that was tremendous help, because when I came to United States, my English was quite bad, and I went through ESL courses. So she was able to help me navigate what's need to be done next and what I probably need to do to actually get where I want to be. So when I was transferring from community college to my university, she actually put it together for me, plan A, B, C, D, E, put the steps. I knew what I'm doing, and I was transferring to college with quite a big international office. We had at Fairmont State University, we did have quite a big international office when students always was welcome. And one of the things that's kind of was very interesting to me, I was not alone there, and we had the students who just come to international office to hang out. We had the lounge there, you had a place to connect, you had a place to asking the questions. It was fantastic. But as Marek said, that my road with Fairmont State was pretty much separating quite early. I only spent there a year, and I transferred to Alderson Brothers University. One of the things that was interesting there, they did not have established international office. We had quite a lot of international students, but the office was not as helpful. So for me, creating relationship was quite hard. And one of the things that I end up doing, I end up actually searching doing a lot of research myself. So when I apply for optional practical training, which OPT is after you graduate, because I want to work for a year, I was looking for professional experience. I end up searching on my own and doing a lot of research to find what do I need to do? What do I need to complete? What paperwork do I need to put together? So essentially, when I came to international office, the only things that they had to do for me is assign my papers. So for me, in my last part, transitioning out, it was a lot of work done by me to actually figure it out what is happening, how does this work, what do I need to complete. While Cleveland State has amazing international office, we do have amazing advisors. We have two of them, which they work with quite a lot of students. They hold the sessions, they hold the walk-in hours. So here it's a little bit easier to go through any transitions that I have to go, like a switch of a change of degree from master to PhD, and they were incredibly helpful. So here I do have relationship with my advisor. I meet with him as I need it. It's not as often as I probably should be, but I do have relationship when I can communicate with him, when I ask him a question and getting a response and getting support and help that I need as an international student to move forward.
Sure.
For me, in terms of international office, my first stop was in El Paso, and over there, their administrative work and preparing international student athletes and setting them up for success was incredibly good. The moment I walked in, actually differently, they walked into me. They were reaching out to me. Hey, stop by, let me meet you over there, let me come by. And do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need driver's license? Okay, I didn't have car back then, so I said no. But they were just like, okay, whenever you feel like you do, let us know. We're gonna set you up. We're gonna show you. We're gonna go with you. You definitely need a bank account. Do you have a bank account? Obviously, I didn't have American bank account, which is necessary over here. And immediately they gave me all the paperwork that I needed. They basically grabbed my hand, went to the bank with me, showed me, okay, but next time, so you know, this is how you do it. But I was still freshman. Whenever I got to Troy University, I'm gonna repeat what Tatiana said. It was basically just about signing papers. Majority of the time, I didn't know the fact that I need to pay taxes. I didn't know that I need to pay insurance. For the most part, or the way how I found, and people that helped me through it were not people in international office. For the most part, it was international student athletes that their native language was English, mainly from Canada or England. So they helped me to walk through all the process, how to fill out taxes, how to apply for driver's license, all of it. Unfortunately, I have to say that international office, in my case, it was just about signing papers.
Sure. So with coaches and the international office, maybe institutional resources. And again, I led this off saying there isn't really a lot of literature, if any, on the transition of international students out of American college, American higher education. and once they're done with their sport, what kind of happens to them, we don't really know. I assume that someone's tracking that somewhere, but maybe at the academic level or the athletic department level. But both of you are describing institutional resources that are lacking from a coaching standpoint, from an international academic advising standpoint of preparing you for the next step. And Mark, you touched on something interesting. You touched on your teammates or your peers. While maybe not a direct institutional source, it's a group of individuals that you inherently have a relationship with, right? Your teammates, whether that's good or bad is another thing, but that relationship is mandated upon you. You spend time with them, you have to. And so maybe talking about, is that a point of, teammates are talking about what their jobs are going to be, what internships they're doing, how they're preparing for life after college, maybe something that they were able in a peer setting to have a conversation with you about or you be a part of, and then what that relationship looked like once you graduated, once you were no longer on the team. Did you keep up with your teammates? Do you still have a relationship with them? Is that still a support system that you have? Could be interesting, again, from a social source of support, maybe for you as you transition out of college. What do you think, Mark?
So first of all, with international student athletes get along because for the most part we go through the same things, we experience the same things. If it is that we don't necessarily speak English or well enough, homesickness, that's over there for sure. Many of us don't have cars, which comes with the same amount of issues. But then, speaking of internships, careers, what are we gonna do after we graduate? One thing that we have to realize is that as an international student athlete or as an international students, we have limited opportunities, that we can work only a certain amount of hours, that for the most part as an athlete, we cannot work outside of the campus. For internship, it's very different from being from the United States. We need to go through OPT tests. We need to fill up certain paperwork. Then if you are being paid for your internship, okay, right now you have to fill out different tax forms. And especially from older student athletes that experience these things, those were the first things they were talking about. Hey, you are about to be junior. Okay, get ready for your internship. Prepare that you will need A, B, C, D, F, G. Then when it comes down to transitioning out, which means post-collegiate career, with American teammates, I keep in touch with very few. When it comes down to international student athletes, I'm gonna say that vast majority we are still in touch till today, not on like daily basis, but definitely once a month, once every other month. We keep in touch, and that social circle, the support system, the discussions, how we are navigating. Oh, I decided to transfer to this university. I decided to go back home. I decided to go to Australia, study over there, and then we are comparing what works for us, what doesn't, and that is still happening today. And even as a group, obviously international students, we have group chats, and I'm saying it again, once a month, once every other month, we talk about these things, how we are pursuing our careers further.
Yeah. Tatiana, you want to add anything to that?
I would say for me, I was more often than not the only international student on my team, which actually bring quite a little bit of challenges because I did not have as big support system. I did not have as many people who I can ask, which actually led me to volunteer for international office and become international orientation leader, which allowed me to enter that particular group of international students to help them and share my experience with them, which mostly the things that you share is how did you navigate the situations that you have in front of you. I also, since I was volunteer, I work with international office. And one of the things that I learned working there is that student athlete does not listen too much, which we all know. who do we listen? We listen to our coach. And when office was like, how do we bring student athletes? They need to complete some paperwork. How do we do that? We try to schedule meeting. We try to go to them. It's not working for us. One of the things that I was like, did you talk to coach? They're like, no, we're supposed to like, yes, talk to coach. And that's how you can navigate the schedules. So currently, what I heard from office in our last meeting, that system works. So while we're talking about resources within university, how the athletic department works, we also need to understand the student user coach as a point of everything.
Sure.
The coach is our main person who will come in for advice, who will come in to solve our problems, who will listen to, and who we looking for support from. So if the coach does not know how this process work or what we should be doing, this also could be a challenge for international students who is not sure what is happening next.
I would add to this. At my first university, the administrative communication was pretty much on a spot, which means whatever was happening with me, uh, my coach knew about it, head coach knew about it, international office knew about it, my advisor knew about it, my lifting coach knew about it. And once again, every single person from these five was asking me about, hey, did you fill out that paperwork? Did you do it? Because as an international student, you are overwhelmed. Especially your first year, you don't understand, no matter how much you think that you know English, you don't. Which means many times you get so overwhelmed just in speaking English, listening to English, that yes, you forget things. That's just happening, as Tatiana had said. Although at my second university, that communication was lost over there. Right leg didn't know what he's doing left leg. And that created many, many issues. And once again, I was just fortunate enough to have other international student athletes that their mother tongue was English, so they were able to help me through. What is interesting, though, that both universities that I attended are a group of 5 universities. So it's not a big difference of Power 5 university and, let's say, Division 3, right? So they were all in the same group. So yeah, that's all I got on that.
Real quick, Chris, before you keep going, and all you guys are doing an exceptional job. And is it Mark or is it Merrick?
Marek.
Thought it was Merrick because we got a Merrick here on our team. I also am a college baseball coach at Alvin Junior College, and Merrick, you just took me down memory lane when I was at Alcorn State as an assistant baseball coach and an adjunct professor, and we had several international students from the tennis that were on the tennis team. I think majority were from, I want to say, London, if I'm remembering correctly. A lot of them I still see online on LinkedIn and Facebook. I would not allow students to follow me, while I was, the coach or whatnot. But after you graduate and all that, we'll do that. And they're doing well in life. But I remember while you're talking, the challenges they would have, especially in their first year, and how just intelligently they were intelligent, smart, because they got through it. Not only did they master the English language, they graduated, they were uh, outstanding on the tennis court. So, man, just listening to your story kind of took me back down memory lane. Really quick, we had a question in the chat from Pamela. What role might a sports psychologist play to help with communication?
First off, did either of you have a sports psychologist, like a specific? You're both shaking your head, so I won't continue. Okay.
I had sports psychologist. Actually, my coach was my sports psychologist because she had master's degree in sports psychology, and there
But
was
not her like tacit job title that I'm a sport, like she just served in that capacity.
yes.
Okay, good. Sorry to interrupt.
And because at my first year I had unbelievable preseason, and I was always asking, how can I do better? What can I do better? Where can I improve? And one of the things that we found out was my mindset, how to think more positively. And obviously, sports psychology came along, and she was asking me if I want to talk to her. If I don't, that's fine. because sharing my private personal information with my coach, some people may like it, some not. So she was telling me about the services that the university offers or other outside sources, but I was completely for that she's gonna be my sports psychologist because she can see what I'm doing, and then when I'm talking about it with her in the office, in a coffee shop, she can understand it better because she already saw it. But unfortunately, that didn't go well because at the end of the day, it is business. And so whenever I got injured and I stopped performing on a level that was desired by me and the potential that I have had, unfortunately, this relationship fell apart. And I personally felt like that person let me down. But at the end of the day, I'm not winning. I'm not going to NCAAs. I'm not going to World Championships anymore. That means that I'm not that interesting. And in that moment, that was such a hard hit on me, on my ego, on my psyche, that I ended up in depression because all of a sudden, the person that I trusted to, the person that was my psychologist, was all of a sudden gone. It's understandable because somebody new came into team, and the focus was on them. That's absolutely understandable. Right now, looking back, but at that moment, it was crucial for me. At the beginning, I thought that it's helping me, but the moment it stopped, I ended up in depression. And then, obviously, I had to find another psychologist, even psychiatrist, which means sport psychology is many times overlooked. For the most part, as far as I know, universities don't have enough resources. And if they even offer those resources, most of the time it's not sports based. It's just a psychologist. So even if the university psychologist is offered, there is usually a limitation. We can have session once a month, sometimes 5 times a semester. And everyone that actually attended if therapy or psychology sessions knows that that's just not enough for student athletes. I understand that resources are issue, but having somebody that keeps you in check, especially as an international student athlete mentally, is extremely important. Somebody doesn't have to necessarily be a psychologist, just somebody.
Sure.
So for me, I want to talk more about transition out because I think you covered the transition in and kind of staying as a student athlete very well. For me, transitioning out, that help would be incredibly helpful because I finished my eligibility before I graduate college. So after I finished playing basketball, I still had one more semester. And for me, while I was living off campus, it seemed like something was missing. So something that I've done for years. So my schedule changed, my availability changed. I only was taking a couple classes. I think I was taking about only 12 hours, which was unusual for me because I was usually taking 15 to 18 easily. It was so much change and so much missing within that period while I was still on campus, while I had NCAA degree completion award, while I was hoping to still be a part of the team. That's kind of was cutoff point for me. Like I was not a player any longer. So I had to figure it out what to do next. And for international students, it's incredible stressful period because if you want to continue working, if you want to take your practical training, so one thing that you do, you have to fill out all the paperwork 90 days before your uh before you're getting your degree. So you have to go through that process. You could be potentially denied. You're spending at that point, I believe, about $500 that you did not even make yet. So you have to find it out of your savings, out of somebody helping you. So it's incredible stressful period between graduation, application for OPT, application for work. And one thing that's usually keep you on schedule, keep you calm and give you that sense of community is a sport, your team, what you're doing is left. You don't have it any longer. That's one of the, I will say, this was one of the hardest period within that point of time.
I would follow up on that. In terms of transitioning out, as I said, my last year I was injured, so I didn't compete. So for me, the transition didn't happen suddenly. It was slow, right? Because I was still part of the team. I still could attend practice or two, whatever I was able to do. So I was around people, but it was less. It wasn't from one day to the other overnight change. Also, back to the question of sports psychology, um, I didn't feel a need to have sports psychologists in that transition out of the sport, but definitely the psychological aspect and the psychological support I found in our faculty and in my mentors, especially those two. Crazy are one of them. You guys showed me that life is possible even if you don't do something that you've been doing for many, many years.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and you say it too much, so I'll tell you to stop again, but it's all good. Mark's my buddy, in case you couldn't tell. But I think what y'all are getting at, and with the question around sports psychology, is really an indictment on college sports in operation in the 21st century. And you have this professionalized setting that's incredibly hyper commercialized, but still ingrained in there is this developmental component that surrounds college and the athletic grant aid and opportunity and really this holistic development process. But those two concepts don't really play well together. And that's really, if you boiled it down to it, it could be a real easy way or a simplified way to kind of look at all the problems in college sports right now of um, we've floated around, we being the NCAA and member institutions, this idea of a mandatory sports psychologist, someone within the athletic department, that being a component of NCAA policy. uh, what does that look like for the transition out, right? If I'm paid to work with current athletes, how can I expect anyone to have the bandwidth to also work for free with athletes that are now outside of the institution, right? And maybe there's a thought of, well, if you do a good job when they're current athletes, you can transition them out more cohesively. I think that's asking again a lot for someone that, one sports psychologist to work with anywhere from 3 to 500 athletes, depending on the institution at a given time, and then also take on those that are transitioning out, that everybody has varying degrees of needs. It's just a challenging proposition for how does that role work. But there's something too, and Tatiana, you alluded to this, and Mark, you did too, really, in part of, if you had a designated person that was there to help athletes as they left the institution. But again, you get back to that indictment of, well, what's it about? It's about the athletes that are currently wearing the uniform, right? And it's just a challenge ideologically. How do you grapple with that? Transitioning a little bit, we had the election on Tuesday. Obviously, immigration status has become something that is incredibly partisan. How much did that play? And you've alluded to this a little bit, talking about um, OPT, curricular practical training, whatever it may be, right? Your field of work, you go into aligning with your degree that you earned, right? That's something that y'all have talked about with me before, right? I can't get a degree in sport management and go try to be a electrical engineer, even if before I was in college, I was an electrical engineer back in my native country, right? And so in the United States, at least, I can't go do that. My degree has to, my professional attainment, my job has to align with the degree that I attained. How much does immigration status play into, for both of you specifically, staying in academia, where getting an F1 visa, considering how hard it is to get a work visa, an F1 visa is a breeze, right? In terms of an F1 visa being a student visa. Obviously, there's challenges. I'm not meaning to simplify it inappropriately, but how much did that immigration status, getting a work visa, getting sponsored, play into both of your decision to stay in academia and pursue that rather than moving out into a professional space? Tatiana, why don't we start with you? Because you did actually move into out of undergrad. You went and worked for a recreation facility, correct? For about a year?
Now, for my undergrad, I work, yes, in recreational facility. I would work at Outfitter. We offer variety of sport activities. Um, so for me, this was incredibly important because through my experience within a field, like for recreational activity, when I was helping the managing outfitter, um, managing. I was doing more marketing than anything. When I graduated with my master's degree, I went to Shaker Heights and I was a facility manager. I was coaching. I was definitely getting my hands-on experience. One of the things that I actually learned during my master's degree, I absolutely loved doing research to actually find those new trends, to figure it out what's people doing and how does it work for them. So that's led me to my master thesis. And I remember graduating in December. I actually graduated in December 2021. And all those changes start was in a process. We got NIL rules. We got start talking about student employment. We talked about how NCAA going to change. And one of the things that I thought I really want to do, and I'm really part of that, I hope, is staying within intercollegiate athletics because it's fascinating system. It's a phenomenon for United States. Nobody else in the world will have a system like that. So I believe the system is providing students with some things that nobody else does. But on the other side, how do we integrate that system within our higher education? So for me, those intersections, that understanding that the new rules coming in, how this going to change, was a fascinating idea that I want to pursue. I want to know more. I want to be part of the change. That's actually brought me in back, which I originally thought I want to be in the school administration track. But when I talk with professors, which I have fantastic professors here who slowly navigate me, you may want to look at the policy because everything that you're talking is a policy administrative track, following the policies, they can produce some, they can work with them. But you want to look at the policy, how they affect the population, what they bringing in, and how this going to work. And the more and more I'm in my classes, which I just finishing my classes this semester, the more I said that that was the right point for me. I want to know what's going to happen next and help the system to succeed and provide more things for our athletes so they can grow and move forward.
For me, when it comes down to immigration and all the paperwork and how hard, or yes, how hard it is to obtain a visa, work visa. So initially, I was not thinking about it at all. I just wanted to get my first degree done, and then we'll see what's going to happen. But later on, as I was transferring and all those uncertain moments that everything was all or nothing from day to day, getting my visa, getting all the paperwork, it was extremely stressful. So the moment whenever I decided to pursue my master's degree, I was told once again, coming back to Troy University mentors, that one of our faculty members is also international, and he had told me that I need to set myself up so there is no doubt that I'm better than anybody else, that I'm irreplaceable.
Mhm.
And at that point, my mentors helped me to set me up where I can be successful. And then along those lines, much later on, the fact that if I'll be accepted to PhD program, if I will be able to finish it, and if I will be able to get a job, just because the paperwork is a little bit easier, which is the fact, that's very nice. But I wasn't focused on that at first, initially. I wanted to know what I'm interested of doing and if I can also be successful in it. And at that point, I'm just coming back and circling. I have to prove that I am the one worth it to stay here. So just working a little extra, that's something that we have in terms of our stubbornness, I would say, about international student athletes, that working a little extra, working a little overtime, working the things or doing the things that not everybody wants to do, especially in academia, especially in research. That was something that I found that I'm capable of and that I can get it done. And right now, I'm slowly but surely starting to see that those little things, is it time consuming? Is it a little bit harder? Does it take my free time? Can I sometimes stay overnight? Yes, but it slowly is separating me from the other applicants. So when it comes down to immigration status, yes, I'm very much aware of that. It was much easier to get my visa for being just student athlete. But right now, when I'm just a student, but also teaching assistant, it was significantly harder. And I'm aware that it's just not gonna get easier with work visa.
Grace, I know that I did not completely answer your question. So the one of the challenges that I had is every time when I'm working with somebody, I'm working with a company, and they're like, "We would love to hire you when you get your status changed." So a lot of companies willing to hire, a lot of people, a lot of companies think that we're doing a good job and we can move definitely forward. But the status and the change process scares employees. It scares employees because we have to enter through if it's not university or not higher education or education, you have to go through the lottery. And it's quite expensive. Not every employee can do that. A lot of employees is actually worried about that. And we're having higher education, we're working a little bit harder, but sometimes that's not only criteria that set us apart.
Yeah, those are all great points. So we've been talking for about an hour. We had a question, we had a comment. If in terms of what I'm hearing and really from an academic standpoint here, looking at future research, and I know y'all are already doing this type of research, but you're some thoughts I have written down. You're talking about assistants navigating the system, right? And I'm showing up here maybe for the first time I've ever been in the United States, and and maybe there's an expectation from Americans domestically that you understand, like we just naturally kind of understand how to navigate the college system, whereas for y'all, our system is so different. And so how do you navigate that? What does it look like? What is the work that needs to be done so that in like you're talking about, Tatiana, not having to look up and research everything on your own, right? How there is kind of, Mark, you talked about in El Paso, where someone's coming to you and saying, hey, I'm here, here are the resources, not just that, let's go do these things together, right? I'm here with you, I'm in this. Maybe that's an institution too. And a little wink, wink at some research. Mark is actually has a grant that he's being funded in completing. And maybe somewhere like El Paso is better suited to understand the international experience based just off geography and the students that they attract, right? If that makes sense, being so close to another country, on the border of another country, right? And so maybe that's something that is conducive to the experience. Beyond that assistance navigating the system, both of you have talked about trust and the importance of genuine relationships that aren't transactional, right? Where it's not you do this for me, I do this for you, bye, right? Genuine trust, those people, the impact they've had in your life. Maybe elaborating on those as kind of a last point, or anything else you'd like to add, kind of what we can be doing future research wise. Tatiana, I know you do a lot of work with policy, maybe policy you see that could be helpful. Experientially, what can we be doing to help international athletes, this unique population, as they transition out of college, and maybe where can academics go in the future to conduct more research? And Mark, we'll start with you, and Tatiana will give you the last word if that's okay.
I'm gonna start with the relationship aspect. Yes, maybe this is just me, but I definitely want to keep in touch and keep building the relationships with people that I work with. And doesn't matter if it is athletic trainer or if it was athletic trainer, my teammate, my coach, uh, or dietitian or whoever. Later on, same with professors. For me, it's very important whoever I'm working with that I understand them, and that sometimes what happens is that with people we cross the paths at one point and we will never cross again. But when we are talking about research, work, even graduate school, I'm more interested in keeping those relationships, which means I want people that I met today, I want to call them in 5 years, in 10 years, right? And especially transition in, I didn't feel that way. Building those relationships isn't easy. It takes a lot of trust, but I'm going to say the moment when where the trust is built, it significantly influenced my path moving forward towards graduate school and hopefully also towards PhD and my entire career. So the moment when it's not just transactional, when it's genuine and honest, that means world to me. And just because I'm international kid, I didn't know anyone. And all of a sudden, when somebody hands me a hand, like, hey, here, talk to me. Let's have fun. What are you going through? What can I do for you? How can I help you? Do you want me to just listen? Do you want any advice? What questions do you have? All of a sudden, sure, it doesn't happen overnight, but the moment when, as an international student and student athlete, I realized that, okay, I can count on this person. If it is, it may be coach, it can be athletic trainer, it can be professor. At that point, you have somebody that you can trust, talk to. And for the most part, that's how the entire path so far was for me. Since I'm in the United States, I tend to lean towards those people. I feel more confident. I feel comfortable. I'm not scared anymore. And I can definitely breathe, especially mentally.
Great.
One thing for me, when we look in, I know you spoke about relationship, but for coaches, they also need to know about the visa status. I believe that it's important because every country has a different types of visa. Some students get a 5-year visa with multiple entries. Some students get only 6 months or maybe 1 year with one or multiple entries. The students put in different situations, to put in a different context and put in a different availability to go home and reconnect with what they have before. On the policy side, I would be very interesting to see for student outlet actually be included in all new policies, because right now the policy that's NAL rule, the student outlets is sitting on the sides, on the sidewalk. They cannot obtain it, they cannot move forward with that. So yes, it's a couple things that they can do through the CPT and potentially work with employees, but we're making a lot of hoops for them while they're already stressed. They're already seeing they maybe teammates or classmates to actually obtaining those opportunities, to be able to move forward, to be able to work and make those outside the sport relationships. They have to sit down and not be able to obtain them. I think this would be very important to navigate in the future. And it could not be solved within colleges or within AA. So the government will also have to, we will have to appeal to the government to hopefully resolve some sort of this relationship.
That's an outstanding point, Tatiana. I definitely appreciate you speaking on that. All speakers did an outstanding job. I wanted to step in as looking at the time. We have about 8 minutes left. I think this would be a good time to open up the floor for our Q&A session. We have one question. I'm hoping we'll have others from. The first question is from Isu uh, Jahara Pasmino. I apologize.
Hey, Sue.
Messed that up. Here's our question. When you started your journey as a student athlete, did you envision pursuing a career outside of sports in the United States? I think anybody can take that and take that question.
I will say no. When I came here, I was more interested to be a student athlete, to combine those two things that I absolutely love, which is playing basketball and getting degree, to see where this could take me. But I had not imagined that I would be a PhD student who actually still working within a sport. Not playing, but working within a sport and hopefully having opportunity to make a difference.
Awesome. Awesome.
For me, it was no, I have not envisioned my career out in sports outside of the United States for multiple reasons. Not in every country in Europe, um, the athletic part in sport is as advanced as in the United States. And because the United States has a lot of colleges, a lot of professional teams, it was very much logical that this would be my path, that it would be here. But as I said, I was hoping to be NCAA coach, which isn't going to happen. But right now, being involved in sports through academia, that's something that it's on a table. Obviously, I have to finish firstly master's degree, then hopefully my application for PhD is going to be successful, and maybe one day I'll finish it. And then the doors are open basically almost everywhere. So, am I opposed to that? No, I'm not. But as of right now, I see myself as in academia here in the United States.
Thank you, Merrick. Uh, are there any other questions? That was an outstanding question. Please, at this time, if you have questions, I know the speakers certainly want to answer them. They did a great job, all of you guys, of speaking of your past experiences, some present. We still have quite a few participants, and we still have a lot of time left. 6 minutes left for Q&A. So, if anybody has any other questions, please put it in the chat, and we'll certainly answer them. We got some typing. While we're waiting, if you guys have any closing remarks, again, we've done great on time. And Chris, I know I kind of cut you short just to kind of open it up for questions. If you guys have anything else you want to talk about or share as we close, we can certainly do that while we're waiting for possible questions.
I guess one of the things that we all work through and we really talk today about, at least that's how I feel, is making relationship with your students, especially the student athlete who may feel a little bit more isolated because they do have another responsibilities on campus besides being a student. So I feel that it would be really interesting to see how those student athletes who has those relationship, who has community, who has the people who can they lean on, is actually making their way forward, uh, not only in athletic career, which that's what originally we all come in here, but also in their professional career and how far they get from graduation to be a professionals and taking those amazing roles.
Yeah, I think that's great. That kind of hits on what Merrick talked about earlier and Chris chimed in. I really like both perspectives. Merrick talked about in the beginning how he learned that you can't really you can't care about the off the field issues with the students when you were, wanting more information about being a strength coach. And I kind of echo with what Chris's response was to that. Being a collegiate coach for some years now, there's a fine line when it comes to the relationship with the student athlete. You certainly want to get them to trust you, and that needs to be genuine. And once they sense that you really care about them as a player, it's your job to help them understand that, hey, I'm not here to be your friend because I'm going to have to make some tough decisions on you, but it's all geared around maximizing your ability on the field and certainly off the field, with the ultimate goal with you graduating, right? So sometimes you got to make those decisions, and it's not always going to have them excited with you. It's almost like being a parent almost, but it's with love, right? So I think they go hand in hand. You can have a relationship, but you got to know that fine line to be successful. Tatiana, I love what you said. I was waiting for that. The networking piece, being on the professor side of it as well too, with teaching, which I love to do. Not everybody's gonna, well, I should say this: you can play as long as you want and be a professional baseball player, basketball, football, tennis. At some point, you're going to hang your cleats up, your shoes up, and you're going to work. You're going to lead a family. So the importance of education and networking are super important for getting a job or owning your own business. So networking is also key, and that information comes from us, and it piggybacks to those relationships as well too that you'll have with your student athletes. So really good points across the board.
Oscar, I would follow up on what you said. There is significant difference. Yes, there has to be fine line between being a coach and trying to make a relationship with your athlete, student athlete, but also from international student athlete perspective, for the most part, even the parents don't even speak English. And all of a sudden, as a parent, you are sending your kid that is for the most part 17, 18, 19 across the world to somebody that you've never seen before. And not all the time, but sometimes, vast majority of the student athletes live within 2-3 hours outside of the university. But the international student athlete is there alone. Doesn't speak English for the most part, especially at the beginning. So, and that person is lost, completely lost. So, trying to have that relationship, especially with those kind of lonely people, is crucial because they feel that they don't belong. And the sense of belonging through coach, which is the main person, then later on professors, advisors, yes, that all is in there. But to having that sort of relationship and the care, not saying being parent, not saying that, but being interested, especially in international student athletes, I find it crucial.
Well, no doubt about it. Again, you brought me back to my time at Alcorn. I certainly couldn't have done what those students did, what you did, because you have to be incredibly brave, intelligent. Obviously, your skill set matters as well too, because you're on campus. But I think the international student relationship has to be different than your domestic relationship with your students. So I agree with you there. So really good point. I know you helped somebody here today. You certainly educated me and brought me back down memory lane. And I want to take this time, as we did really good on time. It's 11:30. As I see Kenjo hopping on to get us out of here. All the speakers, you did a really, really good job. I want to thank everyone for attending this session. Thanks again, and I hope that you guys transition over to hear other speakers as well too. This is a really super event. Thank you all. Today was a success. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.